Before I start introducing Professor Sudhir Chandra, let me take you back to an experience of mine a few years back at the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, where Professor Sudhir Chandra was giving a series of lectures. He started his first lecture with a statement that as nations go, India has a dubious distinction of being the only country in the world that started with patricide, of having killed its own father within days of attaining independence. That, in a very nutshell, captures the kind of work that Sudhir Chandra has been doing. He's a historian. He has worked on the making of subjectivity during the colonial times. His work on Rakmabai and the Consent Age Bill is very reputed. But what makes him extremely different among historians, among social scientists, is that I would call him an intellectual among historians and among social scientists, especially by virtue of his work on Gandhiji. We have tomes and tomes written on Gandhiji, on his values, on the way he approached the struggle against the British, about his canon of non-violence, but very few works on the last days of Gandhi, on the tragic last days of Gandhi, where the man who dreamed of an India, of a nation that could become the nation of all people, irrespective of what their faith is, what their community is, where they are born, that dream got unraveled towards the end. And in a way, in a situation where most ordinary people would have lost hope, would have been frustrated and disappointed, we see in the figure of Gandhi someone continuing, hoping against hope, so to speak, to at least restore fragments of that dream and maintain India as a country that would be, at least to some extent, be a shadow of what he wanted it to be. In Sudhir Chandra's work, Gandhiji, An Impossible Possibility, he looks at how what essentially in terms of probability is almost impossible was turned into a possibility. And where, while most people would call that those last days of Gandhi, or his work, his fasts in Kolkata and in Delhi, and that long walk that he made, which is the subject of this exhibition, as a lost cause almost, and as a failure, Sudhir Chandra has entirely different views about it. In one sense, I have felt that Sudhir's work is not to do with the externalities of Gandhi or what he represented to people, but what Gandhi went through in those days as a person, as an individual, as someone who was given to the idea of harmony among people. It was a time of acute communal distress and communal disharmony. And it is in a very similar circumstance that we stand here and ask the question, can Gandhi save us today? Is there something that we can take from Gandhi, something that we can draw from Gandhi, apart from the ritual remembrances that we are so often used to, apart from the idle words that we say about Ahimsa and Gandhi and the biannual or every 2 years, every year twice, the ritual memories that we have of him? Is there more, something more? So many years later, nearly 8 decades later, is there something that we can salvage of Gandhi? And in reverse, can Gandhi save us today? There'll be no better person to speak of this than Professor Sudhir Chandra. I don't think I need to speak more. I offer the mic to Professor Sudhir Chandra. Please welcome him.
For me, a real privilege and an honor to be with you this evening in connection with this extraordinary exhibition. You, I could not save, walk with me. Now, Professor Narayanan just mentioned that roughly the subject of our conversation this evening would be can Gandhi save us today? Now, can Gandhi save us today? And you, I could not save, walk with me, are intimately connected. I'll begin with a confession. When the day before yesterday, I saw this invitation to the exhibition, for a moment, I could not understand 5:17 p.m. Just for that split, no, not split second, truly a second or a couple of seconds. I thought, what, 5:17? Who begins? And then it struck me that 5:17 is an important moment. And I had forgotten that. So, and I'll relate this admission regarding my forgetfulness with a larger forgetfulness, almost a collective Indian forgetfulness, amnesia. So I'll ask you, all of us know when India became independent, and all of us know when Gandhi was assassinated. And all of us know that Gandhi returned to India in 1915 from South Africa, and from 1916 until 1947, he was an integral part of the Indian freedom movement. For 32 years, this man fought against the mightiest empire of his time, and no harm came his way. The worst that happened to Gandhi would be periodic jail terms. And these jail terms, honestly, were not the kind of jail terms that ordinary prisoners are condemned to. Gandhi was a very special, very privileged prisoner. And most of the time, he was also offered all kinds of facilities that he needed, including the services of his private secretary. Now you don't provide a private, you don't let your private secretary be sent when you are in prison. Most of the time, I'm not saying that invariably that was the case. So this was the worst that happened to Gandhi during those 32 years of a direct confrontation with the British. And how long was he permitted to live in independent India? We all know the dates. We know the 15th of August 47 and we know the 30th of January 48. Have we ever cared to ask ourselves, how could it happen? Have we ever wondered about the enormity of this historical fact? That you call a man the father of the nation, it's a different matter that the title is being disputed at the moment. That's not material. But he was your father of nation, he was your father, and you couldn't let him live in independent India. And you know how much it comes to? 5.5 months, 169 days. Gandhi lived in independent India only for 160, I would rephrase it. Gandhi was allowed to remain alive in the country that he had brought to independence only for 169 days. How can we forget this? So that is the amnesia that I wish to begin. And there is more to this fact, this historical fact of Gandhi being permitted to spend only 169 days. What kind of 169 days were those days for Gandhi? So, I want to share with you the kind of life that Gandhi led during those 169 days. And I'll begin with something he said on his birthday. And let me emphasize this also, that during these 169 days, there was also a 2nd of October. The only birthday that fell, the only birthday of Gandhi's which fell in his lifetime in independent India. Now what does he say on the 2nd of October 1947? He said this in Hindustani during his prayer discourses, but not everyone would understand Hindi, so I would read that in English translation. Gandhi said, "Today is my birthday. What is there to be happy about it? This is for me a day of mourning. I'm still lying around alive. I'm surprised at this, even ashamed that I'm the same person who once had crores of people hanging on to every word of his. But today, no one heeds me at all. If I say do this, people say no, we will not. Where in this situation is there any place for me in Hindustan? And what will I do by remaining alive in it? Today, the desire to live up to 125 years, we all know that Gandhi wished to live till 125 and serve the country, and serve humanity, not just the country. Today, the desire to live up to 125 years has left me. Even 100 years or 90 years. I have entered my 79th year today, but even that hurts. And to those of you who can follow even a bit of Hindi, I want to use two words of the original. I've said, I'm still lying around alive. In Hindi, Hindustani, he said, abhi bhi pada hu. And I've said, but even that hurts. Being alive, that hurts. He said, ye chubhta hai. Now that will give you an idea of the pain that this man was undergoing. Chubhta hai desh mein jeena. And I want to die. I pray to my Ram, ab utha le mujhe. And 3 days later, he requests the audience to join him in his prayer to God to bring an end to his life. So this, I want to stay with this for a while. What does this mean? It is more, whatever you say, but it is larger than that. So it's not just an event. It's a not long drawn out in sense of time, but in sense of the existential pain it is causing the individual. It's a long drawn out, painful, living death. How did it happen? And what was it in independent India which made Gandhi so unhappy? So I'll give you some idea of the kind of things that were happening in India and the kind of painful, tragic discovery that Gandhi made on the eve of independence. So let us begin with the painful, tragic discovery that Gandhi made on the eve of independence. We all know the kind of violence that broke out in India months before India became independent. And one chapter of that tragic history is the subject of our exhibition here. What Gandhi did in Noakhali, what Gandhi did in Delhi, what Gandhi did in Bihar, what Gandhi did in Calcutta, that is the subject of this exhibition. So when there is this kind of violence all around, it's no ordinary violence. Men have lost, humans have lost their humanity. It's that kind of violence. And Gandhi naturally asks himself, how come that a people who had been practicing non-violence, which includes love and truth, have suddenly broken into this kind of cruelty, inhumanity, violence? And he reflects on this. And he comes to the conclusion that what he thought was non-violence was not non-violence. He said, I had been blindfolded by God. He said, when God wants someone to be an instrument of something, God makes this person blind. So God had made me blind. I could not see what was happening. What we all along believed was non-violence was actually passive resistance. And then he explains what passive resistance means. He said, non-violence is the non-violence of the brave. Passive resistance is the non-violence of the weak and the coward. When I came here and talked about ahimsa, they listened to me, they followed me, because they knew that their brickbats, if they threw a brickbat on the British, the brickbats would be answered with bullets. So he said, they did not have the courage to be violent against such people. And he says, if they had had the knowledge of atom bomb, they would not have followed me. They would have destroyed the British. So he says, again breaking into Gandhi's Hindi, चूंकि वो जानते थे कि उनके रोड़े का जवाब गोलियों से मिलेगा, गांधी का सिक्का चलेगा. Otherwise they wouldn't have listened. And then he says that passive resistance, that is the non-violence of the weak, is actually a preparation for violence. These cowards have repressed their violence, and at the first opportunity, this repressed violence comes up. And I want to remind you, because this is important, Freud talked about the revenge of the repressed. Gandhi had not read Freud, but he understands the phenomenon, the working of human psychology, enough to be able to make this kind of a formulation. So he says that this is what is happening today, that repressed violence has come out. And this comes as a great shock to Gandhi. Now, before, let me suggest something else. Now, Gandhi's reason, I think, is impeccable. It cannot be faulted. But this is something which we refuse to recognize. We continue to be proud of the fact, actually we flaunt the fact that we are the only country in the world who supplanted a mighty empire with truth and non-violence and love. So we take great credit for that. But Gandhi is a great moral asset. He may be a liability in all possible ways, or all other possible ways, but he is also a moral asset, which we cannot let go of. So it is time we rewrite the history of modernity. That we rewrite the history of India's freedom struggle and rid ourselves of the illusion, comforting illusion, that we are a very moral people. And we did, for the first and only time in the world, what no one else had done. So this is a most disturbing, disconcerting discovery so far as we as a people are concerned. Gandhi was naturally very upset. His other sorrow was the partition of India. Now this is something that I think we should stay with for a while. Today, I have no idea of this part of the country, but in North India, there is a certain stereotype of Gandhi. And part of that stereotype, there are certain special features of Gandhi's image, stereotypical image in North India at the moment. So everyone knows about Gandhi a few things as part of this stereotype. One, that Gandhi was responsible for India's partition. So I'll come back to this. The other feature of this image of Gandhi, this collective image of Gandhi in my part of the country, is that he used to sleep with young girls during his last days. That is, he was a lustful man. The third, that he forced the government of India to give 55 crores of rupees to Pakistan, as if it was a charity. 55 crores were due to be paid to Pakistan. So this man forces the government to pay 55 crores. He is lustful and he broke the country into two. These are some of the things known about Gandhi by everyone. And no one cares to read. No one cares to know, because they know. And when I say that they know, I'm not saying it flippantly. I'm not saying it only about common people. The tragedy of Gandhi has been that even those who followed him very sincerely, knew how far they would go along with Gandhi. And there were certain aspects of Gandhi, including his fundamental principles, that they found impracticable. And here, I want to read out to you two excerpts from a very, very fine book which an American journalist, a great admirer of Gandhi, wrote. This man's name was William Scharer. William Scharer was posted in Germany and he saw the working of Nazism in Germany. He was there all along. And he's written one of the best books on the subject, Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. So William Scharer was sent to India in 1930. And during that period, Gandhi was in jail. But this man moved about in India and was struck by the fact that even though the leader was in jail, his followers were obeying his command to be non-violent. So this man realized what kind of charisma Gandhi must be having. I must meet this man. So, when Gandhi was released from jail, he flew back to India, William Scharer, and spent weeks with Gandhi. During the Gandhi-Urban Pact negotiations, he was with Gandhi. During the second roundtable conference in London, he was with Gandhi. And there is a very interesting conversation that William Scharer notes in this book called Gandhi, a Memoir. And this book is published in 1981. It's not that he publishes it in Gandhi's lifetime. So the man has almost 50 years to reflect back, think about Gandhi and his work and his achievements. So he says that I would walk with Gandhi. Gandhi would go to the Viceregal Lodge and walk back to Birla Bhavan where Gandhi was staying. So, and during the walks, Gandhi would often say, "You won't believe me, Mr. Scharer, but I assure you India would become independent in my lifetime." And Mr. Scharer would give a skeptical smile. And once in a while would say, "But the English still have their guns." And Gandhi would keep saying, "Mr. Scharer." And one day Gandhi said it more seriously. And he said, "If I were a betting man, Gandhi, if I were a betting man, I would take a bet with you that India would become independent in my lifetime." And Scharer says, "Yes, but I tell you, this is a bet I would like to lose." Naturally. So Gandhi said, "You are not convinced." Now imagine, here is a hard-nosed journalist who has seen things, who has seen politics, who is working in Germany, and he says they still have their guns. And Gandhi says, "You have no idea, Mr. Scharer, of how England has been hollowed out by the First World War. They don't have the means to stay on for long." And there Gandhi uses a remarkable, says something remarkable. I wish I had time only to talk about that. Unfortunately, I may not even come back to that. Gandhi says that this is most remarkable. He says, Mr. Sharar, yes, Mr. Sharar, truth, justice and time are on our side. Now imagine this votary of non-violence, of truth, satyagraha, includes time. Truth, justice and time are on our side. Now one could talk endlessly about the importance of time here. When is Gandhi followed? What is the time when he is followed? When is Gandhi thrown out? What is the time when he is thrown out? What is the time when Gandhi is completely rejected? So time would be such an important factor in any analysis of his role in Indian politics. Unfortunately, I can't do that this evening. And we all know that India became independent in Gandhi's lifetime. Except that the bet was that Sharar would be present at the time of India's freedom, which he could not because he was busy covering Germany. But this is just to give you an idea of the kind of relationship Sharar had with Gandhi. Now, Sharar has seen how in this major context he has been proved wrong and Gandhi has been proved right. This should have made Sharar rather wise vis-a-vis Gandhi. But, and now I'll read out the two excerpts from Sharar. First, to give you an idea of what Gandhi meant to this. He writes, to observe at first hand that mighty effort to rub up against, if ever so briefly, the towering greatness, the goodness, the high spirits and humor, the humility, the subtlety of mind, the integrity and purity of purpose, and that indefinable thing, the genius of this man. Imagine what he has seen in Gandhi. It's a privilege for him. This was the greatest stroke of fortune that ever befell me. You have seen Gandhi from close quarters. This is a description of Gandhi. The mark it left on me has lasted till this day, through the subsequent half-century of my life and work, and helping me to bear the ups and downs of existence, to survive the strain of all the brutal man-made upheavals and the barbarism and the hypocrisy we have lived through in our time, and providing a certain light that helped to guide me towards an understanding, however incomplete, of the meaning of our brief sojourn on this perplexing planet. So this is what Sharar says about Gandhi. And then the same man writes about Gandhi. A society of third of a billion people, based on the solid rock of non-violence and truth, seemed a fine ideal, much to be desired, but dreadfully unrealistic. And this great man, with all these exceptional, extraordinary qualities, you admire, you see that his understanding of the world is very realistic. And yet you say, I find it dreadfully unrealistic. So what is the meaning of Gandhi? If this is unrealistic, in, not surprisingly, Sharad and Nehru become great friends. Because Nehru said, if you let me read out one. He says to Nehru, this is what Nehru says to me. And then he quotes Nehru's reply. Gandhiji says a lot of things like that. Perhaps he thinks they are necessary to atone to arouse the people. But I can't believe he really means them. Imagine Nehru saying, I don't think that he really believes them. He is much too intelligent and experienced not to know that if a free India left back to the simpler times, it couldn't survive in the modern world. I tried to tell him that we will have to adopt Western technology to make India function in the 20th century. Gandhiji listens and then he tells you stuff like this. Imagine. So Nehru and Sharad hit off very well. Now, I could have quoted from Nehru also. What Nehru about Gandhi. He says, it's hard to understand this man. And says in real admiration that we, with our rational mind, think through things. And he, God knows from where, comes up with something which seems absurd. And we dismiss it. But then we realize that he was right and we were wrong. Now you see it repeatedly. That every time you find him doing something absurd, he turns out having the last laugh, not you. But your faith in your rational thinking remains intact. So, I want to propose to you that when you realize that this is absurd, this cannot be. But when it relates to someone like Gandhi, I think you owe it to yourself to think twice. Just one example, one more example. We all know that in 1934, January 34, an earthquake struck Bihar. And Gandhi came up with this statement that this is God's chastisement for this sin of untouchability. Now, I spent long years dismissing this. What nonsense. Tagore is right. And after decades of laughing off this statement. It dawned on me, but let me read. Let me read the Gandhi Tagore correspondence. I read that very carefully. And I'll urge all of you to read that correspondence very carefully. There's no time for me to go into that. And you will see that in terms of rationality, it is Gandhi who is rational and not Tagore. Now, a statement like Tagore's position is very clear, that physical disturbances cannot be explained in terms of moral lapses. Human actions don't control these physical disasters. 34 one could have understood, perhaps. But not to be able to understand it today, after we have seen what human actions do about, how human actions bring about natural disasters. At least we can understand this. We can understand Gandhi's logic. And the man is not saying, accept what I am saying. He is saying, if you think it is superstitious, take it as superstitious. But realize that this is a superstition which does no harm to anyone. This is a superstition which will only bring about good to society. No harm will be done to anyone. But years of total, I was so sure there's nothing to be read about. Similarly about Hind Swaraj. There was a time, till 20 years back, when no one took Hind Swaraj seriously. But now people are forced to take Hind Swaraj seriously. Because what Gandhi wrote in 1909 is materializing. It is a different matter that even after we can see the disaster that is being caused as a result of not heeding voices like Gandhi, and Gandhi was not alone in taking that position. So even when we can see the disaster it is causing, even when we can see it's going to end in an apocalypse, but when it comes to action, we do nothing. So again I'll say, this is the importance of this exhibition. I could not say, walk with me. But what does it mean to walk with Gandhi? I switched off my phone. So, what does it mean to follow? Did Sharad follow Gandhi? Did Nehru follow Gandhi? Do we follow Gandhi? And even God can't help those who don't help themselves. So eventually, we'll have to ask ourselves, are we ready to walk with this man? What in these 78 years have we done? I'm not talking about the path of development which we have taken. That will be a very fraught issue. And I may be dismissed as being obscurantist and backward like Gandhi was. But, so I'll just play it safe. I only share with you some issues where agreement between us is very likely. So I'll tell you something. Gandhi said in September 1947, he had gone to meet some Sikh leaders in Gurdwara Rakabganj, which is in Chandni Chowk. And Gandhi was staying in South Delhi, again with Birla. So those of you who have an idea of Delhi, Chandni Chowk is in Old Delhi. Behind Gurdwara Seesganj is the Jama Masjid, and in front is the Lal Qila. So this will give you an idea of, and Chandni Chowk was a predominantly Muslim locality. So Gandhi goes to Gurdwara Seesganj, returns, and in his Prarthana Pravachan that evening, he says, "Today I went to Chandni Chowk. On my way to and back, I did not see a single Musalman. What is happening?" Now this thought, and what kind of an India it could be, not a single Musalman to be seen. And then he says, and suppose for a moment you manage to send off all the Muslims to Pakistan, what would you do with the Jama Masjid? The largest mosque in the world. It is not the largest, but that's immaterial. What will you do with the Jama Masjid? Will you send it also to Pakistan? Or will you build a Gurdwara or a Shivalaya, Shiv temple, in place of Jama Masjid? I tell you, if you think you can do that, you will be destroying Hindu Dharma and Sikhism. And he says, I do not know what is going to happen. Maybe God does. Now surely Gandhi did not know what would happen. And we can't talk about God if God knew it or didn't. But we know. We know now. And it's no simple knowing. We have done what Gandhi thought was inconceivable. We have done it. And we are proud of it. Our Supreme Court clears it. And we enthrone those who did that. Now when I say we enthrone those who did that, it implies that we have also done it. They could not have been enthroned if we were not complicit. So now, Gandhi, following Gandhi, would require a very different kind of path. Are we ready for that? So, I think we have, while it is true that, okay, I will put it differently. I would suggest that Gandhi became possible because we followed, to the extent we followed. There is a whole history of those 32 years, when there are times when he is followed, there are times when he is not followed. But overall one could say that the freedom movement in India was largely informed by Gandhian ideas, however imperfectly, but it was informed by a Gandhian ethics, by Gandhian principles. But Gandhi became impossible when we chose not to follow. So we make Gandhi possible and we make Gandhi impossible. The onus is on us. Gandhi is already there. He isn't dead. So it is for us to bring back that Gandhi and see the extent to which we are ready to go along with Gandhi. I will end with just two references which I think are important. Following Gandhi, what it can entail, what it can imply, it may seem so daunting that we may not even consider the possibility of doing it. But I want to share with you the ultimate difficulty of following. On the 30th of January, that is the day of his assassination, a photojournalist, Elizabeth Burke White, who had been with Gandhi for quite some time, had a long interview which she has described at great length, very graphically. And when a photojournalist provides a graphic description, you can imagine it's almost photographic, but description in words. And at one point in that interview, Elizabeth point blank asks Gandhi, how will you make the atom bomb? And Gandhi, without batting an eyelid, says, I'll meet it with prayerful action. Now, I'll meet it with prayerful action. Poor Elizabeth can't make sense of what Gandhi is saying. So, she asks for clarification as to what you mean. And now I'll read Gandhi's explication of what it means to meet the atom bomb with prayerful action. He says, I will not go underground. I will not go into shelters. I will come out in the open and let the pilot see I have not the face of evil against him. Here Gandhi paused. Resumed his spin. And after a few moments, continued. And please note, so far Gandhi is talking of I will not go into shelters. And now, when he resumes, he says, the pilot from that height, the pilot will not see our faces from his great height. But that longing in our hearts that he will not come to harm would reach up to him and his eyes would be open. Of those thousands who were done to death in Hiroshima, if they had died with that prayerful action, died openly with that prayer in their hearts, then the war would not have ended so disgracefully as it has. It is a question now whether the victors are really victors or victims of our own lust and omissions. Because the world is not in peace, it is so dreadful. Now I know that when I'm reading it, even when you read it carefully, it's not an easy answer. Now this shift from I to we, there's no explanation. But when Gandhi shifts from I to we, there is a hope, maybe faith. When he stood, come out on the road to face the pilot with that prayerful action, the others would be drawn to join him. There is that hope. Otherwise he will be talking of we. And then he brings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And he asks the question, are the victors victors or victims of our own lust? You mean not of their own lust and omissions? Now what is happening here? We could have perfectly understood if we had talked, they are victims of their own lust and omissions. But he's talking of our lust and omissions. How are we responsible? And when I read this, I wrestled with it. And I was asking, I was struggling with this. What does it mean? Our own lust and omissions. And also, would I join Gandhi when he goes out to face the pilot? I'm even today not sure if I would. And when I say that even today I'm not sure if I would, I know that even if I were to say that I don't have the courage to do it, it's perfectly possible that in that moment I would do it. So that hope against hope, I don't think I have it within me. But do I really know my own inner resources? It could be, it can work both ways, I know. So, one question which I keep asking is, would I? And then I ask, do I know people of whom I can say they will? And even when I draw a blank. But this man is talking of us, we. So this is one. And so I want to emphasize how difficult it may in certain situations become to walk with God. And this other omissions, lust and omissions. So I thought there is a typing error. Instead of there, our here. And suddenly, I remembered my visit to the Nagasaki Museum. And one particular photograph which I had seen in the Nagasaki Museum, this is 1996, it stood out. That photograph shows the Tokyo railway station with a train about to leave. People thronging the platform to see off the soldiers. And all those soldiers are young boys. They are being sent to the front. And these enthusiastic crowds are waving goodbye. What is this? The victor and the victim. So what is the difference? And that photograph explained to me what Gandhi means. And finally, I assure you this is the last. I want to share with you, because I talked of Gandhi's death. It's not the 30th of January when he's assassinated that he dies. It's a prolonged death. And in that context, I want to end by sharing. There was a very eminent American journalist, Vincent Sheehan. Sheehan and Sharad were great friends. Now, Vincent Sheehan was living in Vermont when he got news of India's freedom. So from Vermont he came to New York and called Sharad that I have come here and I want to meet you. He said, what for? No notice. Is everything all right? He said, no, things are all right, but I want to meet you because you are a friend of Gandhi's and you can get me an appointment with the great man. So it's in that connection that I want to meet you. So a meeting is fixed and the two friends meet. And Vincent says to William, I must meet Gandhi. So William says, but since 31, I have been telling you never took me seriously. He said, no. But I was not ready to meet the great man. He said, are you ready to meet him now? He said, no, I'm not sure if I am, but I have to meet him. He said, but why have you to meet him? He said, because he's dying. So, William Sharad says, what do you mean he's dying? He said, you are the 10th person to whom I'm saying this. So that when he finally dies, and I said, this is what I have been saying, people would believe me, you would be my witnesses. Otherwise, no one would believe that I said the man is going to die. So, because he is going to die, I must meet him. So, Sharad asked him, but why is he dying? He says, because it is in the logic of history. And brings in Socrates, Christ. And it is in the logic of history that Gandhi must die. He manages to meet Gandhi on the 28th of January. He describes that meeting at great length in his book, Lead Kindly Light. And as he's leaving out, he says, you can take a chance tomorrow also, just in case I'm free after the prayer. He said, no, tomorrow I'm going to Punjab with Mr. Nehru. He said, oh, you must spend time with Nehru. So, come on the 30th. He says, yes, of course, I'll try my luck on the 30th. And I tell you, read that description. He doesn't manage naturally. But what happens to him? So Gandhi had to die. The question before us and the question the exhibition raises is, how long will he remain dead? When will we be selfish enough to bring him back to life? Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir ji. Gandhi had to die, and how long shall he remain dead? As Sudhir so eloquently put it, Gandhi was made a possibility by us, and Gandhi was turned into an impossibility also by us. And it is we who enthroned the very people who made Gandhi's dream impossible. Our complicity in that cannot have been recorded more strongly than this. And when he ended with that question, how long should Gandhi remain dead? That's not a question that Gandhi should answer. That's a question that we all should answer. And I believe There is no better way to describe this exhibition, which I would like to call as an installation entirely in memory of Gandhi. It is that question that stares us. But I would like to take a little hope from one word that Sudhir used, that it is we who enthroned the forces, the people who are inimical to Gandhi. And in that phrase, enthroned, I find resonances of Faiz Ahmad Faiz's Hum Dekhenge. Because Faiz writes about a day when from the Kaaba the false gods shall be thrown out. जब इसी काबे से वो तो उठवाए जाएंगे, he writes. Sudhir is a great connoisseur of music and poetry, and I sincerely don't think that that word enthroned was either casual or unthought. There is probably a deep, strong revenge of the repressed there in telling us that that which has been enthroned can also be disenthroned. If anyone has any questions or comments, a couple of them can be accommodated, please, and let us maintain this very somber tone that Sudhir has maintained throughout, because the entire peroration, even when he was looking at multiple angles of Gandhi, was steeped in the deepest of respect for that great soul. So, questions, if any, or comments?